Hello everyone and welcome back to Game Week 4 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. We join myself, Ryan Sipple, for the second game of the day, which sees Middlesbrough take on West Bromwich Albion Throstles. We are back. Middlesbrough with kick-off. Thumbs up from the goalkeepers. Paul Pearson in the centre. And we are officially underway as Umar Hanif into Carl Forster. Out of play. Or down that channel to Carl Forster. Just catches up to it. Interesting deviation for West Bromwich Albion Throstles, which I'll go through in just a second. But Middlesbrough line up with James Found, Umar Hanif, Carl Forster and Kath Goldsborough. And West Bromwich Albion Throstles, something that I would deem their more attacking lineup, their more proactive lineup, sees Amy Lee Julian come in place of Parth Gakwad, Regan Kemp, Abigail Bolt and Thomas Donaher. Thomas Donaher now trying to flick it across the court. It's very dangerous, certainly considering how good Umar Hanif is with those 180s. And a slight let off, which they're going to have to be very careful of. It goes into Umar Hanif, flicked off of Thomas Donaher, out of play by Abigail Bolt. She'll probably want to have a little bit more success in instances like that. Delighted to be joined on commentary now by David D. We've got a few technical difficulties, so hopefully you can hear us loud and clear. David, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Ryan. How are you?
I'm not bad at all. It's good to see you at a Premiership weekend. It's not often you've attended, if ever.
Never been here. I'm very excited to be here just to see how high the standard of football is and to hopefully just get a good insight on what we can take back to our team in the Championship.
Absolutely. So Umar Hanif now, indirect free kick into Carl Forster, flicked across the box, blocked by Regan Kemp. Of course, you will have very high hopes of being present in the Premiership next season. How have you found the Championship this season? Because you've switched allegiance to Manchester United and it's going really nicely.
No, the Championship has been probably the best season it's ever been that I've ever played in this year. It's so competitive. Every single team gives every other team a fight. I mean, that's just proven by us against Baggies. It's always an entertaining game, and we always, even though the league positions may be so different, each team can challenge another. Like all of us are fighting in the top spots. But no, it's been a very good season from the lads and ladies, and it's not done yet. We've got to keep that hunter's mentality going, keep fighting and hopefully get it over the line.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And not much of a gap between Game Weeks 4 and Game Weeks 5 either. So it's good that you're here keeping Powerchair Football at the front of your mind. And that game week 5 is going to be so important. So cannot wait for that as Regan Kemp into Amy Lee Julian. I did mention there was a slight deviation with West Bromwich Albion and Throstles. We're so used to seeing them with Parth Gakwad as the deepest of their 4 players. He's currently on the bench. This is the kind of the lineup they opt for when they want to be more proactive. They want to be more attacking. But as of 4.5 minutes, they're struggling to break this Middlesbrough press.
Middlesbrough in the cup were so hard to break down. We were so disappointed with the result at the end because last minute conceded, but to be honest, they deserved the win. They were really, really good in the game, and obviously we personally don't think we performed to our standards, but really, really high quality football that Middlesbrough played.
Yeah, Middlesbrough will be present at the Derby Arena on Saturday, May the 9th, where they take on Newcastle United Foundation in quarter-final 3. West Bromwich Albion Throstles were actually eliminated this week to their sister club West Bromwich Albion, so we have the confirmed Cup and Vars fixtures, and you'll be joining me for commentary for some of it, so that'll be really exciting, and hopefully the best showcase of Powerchair Football we've ever delivered in this country.
I'm unbelievably excited. It should be a really great spectacle of Powerchair Football and one to remember for the future.
Umar Hanif into Carl Forster. Both of these sides are struggling to impart their influence after 5.5 minutes, but just based on the standings, they're so similarly matched that it was always going to be a cagey affair. Live at the same time on Court A, Leeds take on Muscle Warriors, and with Teesside and Greenbank both with comprehensive victories to their name in Game Week 4 already, kind of it puts the pressure on Leeds to get a positive result against the team currently bottom. Is it into Umar Hanif? Can't quite get the angle. Carl Force has an attempt, blocked by Amy Lee Julian. Now potential breakaway. Amy Lee Julian coming up to meet it, but James Found cuts across her path. I mean, whilst only a position separates these two, David, in the standings, currently it's 11 points. So it shows that really incredible point accumulation that Throstles have got across their games played to put them well clear of any danger spots at the bottom.
Yeah, I just think they've already beaten their 24-25 Premiership total, and it just shows by the way they're playing. They seem to be playing with freedom, not with anxiety, and they seem to be very relaxed and return to that 3-1 system rather than trying to play that 4-out system, which they attempted to last season. I think we could all see it just wasn't working for them, and it's clearly showing now. And Middlesbrough have more to fight for. They've still got to survive this season, but if I was to put my money on it, I think both these teams will be in the Premiership next season.
Yeah, without question. I think that would be a very fair assessment. Just to your point of the 4-out system, irrelevant of who you are, you need the personnel to really execute that brave attacking form of football. And with all due respect to West Bromwich Albion and Throstles, they don't quite have that in and amongst their squad, but this is kind of their bread and butter, that 1 and 3, and they do it so well, and on their day they can give a game to anyone. It's a shame when we consider that cup fixture they had against West Bromwich Albion on Thursday. I don't think Thomas Donoghue was able to make it in time. I think there was difficulties in travel over from Ireland, which meant he missed it by a couple of hours, because he's been a very important player for them this season.
Driving it out now, Thomas Donoghue. Behind Umar Hanif, still in the dribble. Strong physical play from Thomas Donoghue.
Good work from Umar Hanif to just flick it off Thomas Donoghue there. Secondary ball down the line, blocked by Tom Donoghue.
Umar Hanif has such a good dead ball accuracy. So does Kath Goldsborough. Kyle Forster to take this set piece though. Taking a touch. Would have liked to see him stay in reverse there.
Yeah, definitely agree. These two did meet in game week 1 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. I think I was calling the action for that one. 1-0 to Throstles on that day. Abigail Bolt, the single goal scorer. They'll be loving to replicate that now, but it's Middlesbrough who are knocking on the door. Zuma Hanif, as you said, that dead ball specialist down to Carl Forster, looking for that gap. That is one thing Regan Kemp is very good at, anticipating those cross-field balls and angling his chair to ensure that it falls clear of any danger.
I'd quite like to see Middlesbrough rather than playing through the wall. I'd like to see them play around it, because if you look, Thomas Donoghue is facing towards the wall. He won't be able to turn his back in time for Umar Hanif to switch it, and it looks that they might be doing that now. I think that would be a way to break down this strong, robust Throstles wall.
I have no doubt, David, that you tune into a lot of Premiership football, so have a really good point of reference to how teams are doing. Of course, our attention naturally goes to the top teams of the division, the title contenders, but based on what they did last season and the developments they've exhibited in this, Throstles have got to be one of the teams of the season for me.
100%. That Team of the Season award will be highly contested at the end of the season for the Premiership. Throstles would definitely be in a shout through it. Others like Leeds for their sheer quality, and Teesside just for how unbelievable they are. Teams will obviously be up there, but Throstles are the ones that have made the most significant improvements from last season. So I would like to see the vote at the end of the season.
Amy Lee Julian, this is very rare territory for Throstles. Slightly disappointed. I think Thomas Donoghue was caught in two minds as to how to best engage that, and in that hesitation just invited Middlesbrough to come back in and sweep possession.
Nice fade from Umar Hanif there, just to bypass Thomas Donoghue.
You can see what they're trying to do. It's really nice play from Middlesbrough to just put Throstles in really uncomfortable areas, draw their shape out. They've got a very stubborn shape, so it's going to need that width, it's going to need that power and that precision to pull the likes of Regan Kemp and Amy Lee Julian out of their predominant positions. Like to see Carl Forster do better there. He had time. He was unopposed on that right-hand wing, but just can't quite make the timing and the connection on that 180. As Throstles observe their first substitute of the game. An interesting one, which we'll see Amy Lee Julian switch out and then put Path at the base, something that I'm fairly familiar with, but not necessarily Amy Lee Julian out wide.
I think Throstles are going for more of a defensive approach here. Path Gakwa tends to be the more defensive middleman when they want to hold games, to not concede, while Amy Lee Julian seems to be more that attacking, proactive middleman. So it's a bit of a statement from Throstles to say, you know what, we'd be happy with a draw here.
Amy Lee Julian into Regan Kemp. Abigail Bolt's been very isolated up the court. She's having arguably her best ever season in the National League. It's probably not up for debate at all. It is her best ever season. You can see the confidence she has. And also the influence she has amongst this squad. I think she's had the Unsung Hero award for 2 weekends in a row now. savvy coming together of those two chairs. No malice, so the ball plays down for a kick in. The top left-hand corner, just out of shot. 14 minutes played, Middlesbrough 0, West Bromwich Albion Throstles 0. If we tune into Court A, Leeds currently 2-0 up against Muscle Warriors. I'll show you the live league standings at the half-time break so you can see how both results or current scorelines influence things, as Kath Goldsborough into her 180, read by Abby Bolt. When you played Middlesbrough in the Cup, David, who surprised you most amongst that squad?
I think rather than a single individual, I'd have to go with the pairing of Kath Goldsborough and Umar Hanif. They almost play as if they've got two middlemen. Like, they sit very deep, try and play the ball in between them, and it's very difficult to get off them because Umar will just switch it to the other wing. The quality of Umar Hanif and the set-piece delivery of Kath Goldsborough was what won in the game.
Regan Kemp intercepted by Umar Hanif, which needs Parth Gakwad to be brave coming out of his box. Into the back wheel, James Found, Amy Lee Julian pressure in. Abigail Bolt, fantastic communicator, just lets her teammate know that she occupies a position on that right-hand wing as you view it, the left of West Bromwich Albion Throstles. .16 minutes played. Full 180. You can see what she's trying to do, get that brave pick off in front of James Found. And in doing so, James Found out of his box, condensed the space, and late into this first half, Throstles have a good opportunity here via this indirect free kick. Very wide, David.
Yeah, Abby Bolt looks more credible option. James Found condensing Amy Lee Julian, opts for Amy Lee Julian. James Found intercepts it.
I think Abigail Bolt needs to push that back into the centre quickly. If she wins a corner, she would have done well, but Regan Kemp was there waiting. So a free kick is awarded as Regan Kemp just takes a position between Umar Hanif and James Found. Not quite 5 metres marked out yet, so Umar Hanif can have a little bit more territory.
I think this will be a 2-on-1 if it's played to Regan Kemp. You often see these given in the Championship.
Yeah, it's a very condensed shape. Abigail Bolt is going to have to drop off immediately. And it's a brilliant goal. Regan Kemp just swipes into the side of it. There is nothing that either James Found nor Umar Hanif could do to prevent it. And arguably against the run of play, West Bromwich Albion Throstles lead a 1-0.
I stand corrected about that 2-on-1. Really well worked set piece from West Bromwich Albion Throstles. Regan Kemp finds the gap in between the solid defence of James Found and Umar Hanif. West Bromwich Albion Throstles 1, Middlesbrough 0.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Middlesbrough have been kind of the better of the two sides, because they haven't been able to turn that possession into chances. But despite that, you would still say it's against the run of play, and that will very much please the coaches of West Bromwich Albion Throstles, who now a minute and a half out from that half-time break. It wouldn't surprise me if they just go really defensive now, protect that 1-goal margin. They've done it so often. So many of their wins have come by just a single goal in a 1-0 scoreline. Leeds growing in confidence. They're now 3-0 up against Muscle Warriors. As Amy Lee Julian tries to find a way to bypass Kath Goldschbach. Flicked off a Middlesbrough chair despite some appeals. So the goal scorer, Regan Kemp, to take. Surely the last major action.
Contact in the box there from James Found.
I think it was more Abigail Bolt reversing. I think he had just stopped and she just went back. But Paul Pearson's such a experienced official, complemented by Jeff Lewis on the far side as well. So, and you will see a development within recent weeks is all the officials now have headsets so they can communicate with each other, which helps that decision-making process so much better.
I think it also means the fact that all officials get to have their say, because some decisions can be controversial, but at least it's all a group decision. Abigail Bolt in the corner gets a flick out to Regan Kemp.
That does signal the end of the first half. Professional job from West Bromwich Albion Throstles so far. They've had to absorb some pressure. It's been a game of very few highlights. Neither has been able to impart the quality we've maybe come to expect, but Throstles so far getting the job done as promised. The live league table, which does take into consideration a potential 3 points for Leeds and 3 points for Throstles. It would put Throstles up to 22, and you can see there West Bromwich Albion, Newcastle United Foundation, Villa Rockets and West Bromwich Albion Throstles all on 22 points each, which is incredible.
Wow.
There's of course a big deviation between goal difference, 24 if you consider the difference between Throstles in 8th and West Bromwich Albion in 5th, but it shows there is probably 3 distinct packs in this division. You've got the top 4, underneath which you have that bracket of teams, and then underneath which you have 4 teams fighting for their Premiership status for 26-27. A huge thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Myself and David will be back very shortly for the second half. Hello everyone and welcome back to the second half of Middlesbrough versus West Bromwich Albion Throstles in game week 4 of the 25-26 Slater Gordon Premiership. We join myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside David D for the action. David, give me your assessments from that first 20 minutes, please.
I think both teams were very even. They kind of cancelled each other out. However, Throstles, very neat, very tidy set piece, put them ahead, and I think that is well deserved, but I'm intrigued to see the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. It does need Middlesbrough to be a little bit braver and committing players forward, which will naturally leave vulnerabilities in behind their very typically solid defence. Whistle blown, and we are back underway. Just to go through the squads as they start the second: James Found, Umar Hanif, Kath Goldsborough and Thomas Pettigrew for Middlesbrough. And West Bromwich Albion Throstles have Parth Gakwad, Regan Kemp, Abigail Bolt, Amy Lee Julian. So the exact 8 players that ended the first half. And straight away, Throstles looking to impose themselves. To be taken by Abby Bolt. If she can thread the needle through to Amy Lee Julian off the back wheel of James Found. She's happy to let that roll for a second kick in. Regan Kemp down to Abby Bolt.
Regan Kemp and Kath Goldsborough battling it away. Kath Goldsborough obviously cannot go into the box.
2 players who don't shy away from a 50-50, do they? As Kath Goldsborough has Thomas Pettigrew as the shortest option. Switch of play from Regan Kemp. Didn't quite get the purchase, but there was a slight bobble on the ball which prevented him from locating Amy Lee Julian high and wide on that right-hand wing, certainly in a position where she could have capitalised in an attacking sense. So Regan Kemp to take. Into Abby Bolt, who's going to have a secondary effort.
If Abby Bolt could have got that on target, that would have been surely
It was a strange setup from Middlesbrough, wasn't it? It just doesn't look like they're singing off the same song sheet defensively in this game, or even in an attacking sense, because they haven't done anything to really trouble the Throstles back line. Maybe they will now, with Kath Goldsborough forcing it down the court. Thomas Pettigrew in this bottom left-hand corner. She swipes into Abby Bolt. She has to be careful there. She does apologise. One of the clearest free kicks you will see all day, but that's Abby Bolt there. She's brave. She puts her chair in a position that knows that contact's almost inevitable, but restricts the options of Kath Goldsborough significantly. Regan Kemp just trying to flick it up the court. There is additional options on the bench for Throstles in Jonathan Davis and Amy Wharton, as well as, of course, Republic of Ireland international Thomas Donaher, who was withdrawn in the first half.
Disappointing kicking that from Throstles. I would have liked to see Abby Bolt control that in the corner and maybe find Amy Lee Julian on the other side or back to Regan Kemp.
Regan Kemp down that central channel. It was inviting that front bumper pick off from Abby Bolt as Amy Lee Julian switches wings. There's a little bit of contact there. It's hard to distinguish from myself and David's angle, but the referee right over it as Amy Lee Julian once again, she was very narrow there. She has to be careful, maybe take a little bit of a wider berth. It's good work from Abby Bolt. I think she's been the player of the match so far. She's just winning those individual battles, winning those dead balls, which is exactly how they took the 1-goal advantage they currently have.
Strange setup from Middlesbrough here. James Found facing towards Regan Kemp rather than sideways. It's a big gap to be exploited here.
There is, and that's why Kath Goldsborough's coming across, just to prevent him having the spaces. He just tries to usher it over to Amy Lee Julian out of play. Much better from Throstles in this second half. They had to absorb a lot in the first 20 minutes, but 5.5 into this second, by far the more controlling side. And as mentioned, they're just probably going to protect this lead. They're not going to put too much strain or stress on their defence. So instances like this where Regan Kemp can just trap it, play that clock down, they will take it. Amy Lee Julian's going to have to just drop off ever so slightly. She plays right on the edge of those 2-on-1s.
Just to gain the best advantage she possibly can.
Of course.
But sometimes you may want to be a bit deeper as a middleman, just to give yourself that extra second to respond to it, to be able to deceive the opponent and just maybe get the competitive advantage, but different styles of play.
I'm not sure if you managed to tune into the opening game of the day, which was GBG Knights versus Teesside. Tyler Reeve, as the central player, plays so deep, almost in his own half in attack, which completely kind of stretches the play, confuses opponents. As Regan Kemp into Abby Bolt, cleared by James Found, only as far as Regan Kemp into Abby Bolt, switch of play. It's largely firefighting now, potential breakaway. Would have potentially liked to have seen Thomas Pettigrew take that in his stride, in reverse, to give an opportunity for the likes of Kath Goldsborough and or Umar Hanif to join him in attack. That sort of attempt's never going to trouble Path Gatquad.
Talking about playing deep, it reminds me heavily of Tyler McClelland in the Championship.
Yes.
He plays so deep against, when we played them on the weekend, he was literally in his own half, and that was what, I think that's what makes Hull so difficult to get the ball off, because as soon as you get the ball off them, even though he's playing really deep, you've still got to get it past him, because he's sitting that deep. He's almost as if he's playing that CDM role that you would see in regular football.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken at length on commentary and the podcast about Tyler McClelland and his impact. He wouldn't be out of place in this division, would he? So it shows how important he is to a side that have struggled at the bottom of the Championship division.
Tyler McClelland has probably saved Hull season.
It will, of course, come down to the last weekend of the season, but based on current form, you have them clearing that relegation zone in the Championship.
I think it'll be tight, but I think, unfortunately, I think Forest are down already, unfortunately, but between Saracens, City and Hull, it is so tight.
Yeah, I mean, Nottingham Forest, they're 6 points adrift of Hull and East Yorkshire and Manchester City, who both sit on 14 points. So they'd have to win at least 2 games to match their 2 closest rivals, let alone better in it. And I've said on countless occasions, the point accumulation needed to assure yourself that you're clear of the relegation zone is probably going to be 18 to 20 this season, which is remarkable when years gone by it's needed to be 13 or 14. Of course, relegation in the Championship doesn't carry as much jeopardy as that of the Premiership, because you're still invited to participate in the Championship playoff to earn your spot. But if and where possible, you're going to want to avoid another round of fixtures, intense fixtures against some of the country's leading regional league teams.
I think the same could be applied for the Premiership playoff with.
Avoid the 10th, yeah.
Oh my God, that is our main aim, just to avoid that. We want to get automatics. We do not want to be in that one-place playoff.
No. I mean, if we're looking at it through a Premiership lens, West Bromwich Albion and Throstles were in that fixture last season against Teesside Steel, and it wasn't easy at all for Throstles. They just about scraped 1-0 in that one.
Through a controversial goal as well. But, you know, I think it just shows how much, if you can stay in the Premiership that first season, you can build on that, you can make a foundation, you can set the stone on how you want to perform the season after. And it also, if you look at it from the other perspective, with Teesside Steel, it looks like they will might be in the they could be in the playoff this season, or they could be in automatics. We have no clue. It's still all to play for.
Big tussle off the ball between Kath Goldsborough and Amy Lee Julian. Nothing awarded by Paul Pearson as we're into the last 9 minutes. As Paul Pearson's now going to call Amy Lee Julian over just to have a word. Very calm official. Certainly commands respect. As Kath Goldsborough into Umar Hanif, pushes it down, certainly intended for Carl Forster, who gets it in reverse now, 180 across the box. Not quite sure what Umar Hanif's trying to do there. I think he's trying to flick it back to Kath Goldsborough, but that option, based on the way his chair was positioned and shaped, was never on, was it, David?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it was going to be on, but Umar Hanif smacks into, I couldn't tell if it was Tom Donaher or Jonathan Davis, but hefty contact that from Umar Hanif.
Yeah, it's probably just out of shot, but the substitutes of West Bromwich Albion Throstles are to the right of myself and David. And anyone that's familiar with the Lee Westwood Sports Centre knows that the run-off and the gaps around the court is minimal. Even myself and David often have to shift when there's corners in this bottom left-hand corner. As Regan Kemp into Abby Bolt, would like to see a little bit more accuracy on that front bumper. It's a nice, cute pass from Regan Kemp. As the ball from court A rolls on to B. Nice reverse spin, lovely pass from Regan Kemp. I think Amy Lee Julian needs to be wide and in reverse on the right as Kath Goldsborough turns into Regan Kemp. That's our second bit of contact this game. Surely any further infringements will result in Paul Pearson going to his book.
Over the set piece, plays to Abigail Bolt. Would have liked to see Regan Kemp get a bit more angle on that front bumper just to find Abigail Bolt, but it goes out for a Middlesbrough goal kick.
James Found. Out to Umar Hanif. They just haven't been able to create anything in attack, have they?
Just seems that they're still in that defensive mode, Middlesbrough. They can't break into the progressive, proactive mode they currently need to be in. If they continue like this over the next 6 minutes, it's almost decided in their fate what this scoreline will be.
if we look at their goals per match average across the season so far, it's fairly bleak viewing for Middlesbrough. 0.27 goals across their games played. If you compare that with Throstles, 0.87, it's far closer to that 1 goal per game average. And when you consider the likes of Muscle Warriors are on 0.21, it shows how fine the margins are and how those teams at the bottom, their success or their potential Premiership status for 26-27 is going to come more from solid defences rather than prolific attacks, as Abigail Bolt has an opportunity. It's dealt with by the Middlesbrough defence. Five minutes remaining.
I think Abigail's #1 aim right now is just to keep that ball in that top left-hand corner of Middlesbrough's half. Middlesbrough win a kick in though.
All the way through, slightly disappointing.
Into Abigail Bolt.
I've just looked, David. West Bromwich Albion Throstles' 5 other wins in the 25-26 season have all come via a 1-0 scoreline. So this would be their 6th of the season. It shows that they get that goal, then they shut up shop, so to speak. And this has got 1-0 written all over it because Throstles don't look to be overexerting themselves or stretching themselves in an attacking sense. And Middlesbrough just can't get a foothold. So much contact off the ball in this game.
Goldsborough again in a battle with Regan Kemp. This is a key battle that we have seen throughout the game. Goldsborough is an extremely physical player, trying to drive her team up the court.
Regan Kemp breaks away, met by Umar Hanif, who just switches positions with James Found. If there is to be a second goal in this game, based on this second half, it's only going to go one way.
Really, really good time wasting this from Throstles. It doesn't look like anyone's about to approach him. And as I say, that Umar Hanif pressures Regan Kemp.
Regan Kemp, Emily Julian and Abby Bolt just switched positions. Contact off the ball once again. Goes in the favour of Throstles, to the slight bemusement of Umar Hanif. So it's a contact foul, so a direct free kick.
Similar position in which they scored in.
Very similar. I wonder if he'll look to attack this. Obviously, the deviation from that is the direct nature of it, but if Abby Bolt can squeeze herself between James Found and Umar Hanif, there's a gap to be capitalised on at that near post, which James Found does well to ensure isn't breached. Approaching the final minute. David, give me your player of the match.
I think I've got to give it to Abigail Bolt. She's just been absolutely superb at just locking the game up, not allowing Middlesbrough to get out their half in the second half. She provided the assist for the goal, and overall it's been a really calm, collected display from the winger.
Yeah, I completely agree. As mentioned, she's having her best ever National League season. She's clearly got so much confidence at the moment. Just to bring it back slightly, that 2-on-1 in Middlesbrough's favour is something that Amy Lee Julian has been playing right on the line of all game. I'd just like to see her take a little bit of a wider berth, because whilst I understand it gives you an advantage to condense the space, sometimes it's needless infringements as it's deemed too aggressive. I'm not quite sure who it's against. Once again, a contact foul, over aggressive nature awards Throstles a free kick as we now tick over into additional time. It's almost certainly going to be 3 points for Throstles, and you have to say, David, based on this second half showing, very much deserved as well.
100%. As Kyle Forster trying to get it up the pitch. To be honest, I'm very surprised that there hasn't been a yellow card in this game. It's been so physical and a lot of contact. But Paul Pearson blows the full-time whistle. West Bromwich Albion Throstles 1, Middlesbrough 0.
Yeah, it was the result that the two shared in October. And once again, we see that scoreline rear its head for West Bromwich Albion Throstles. To show you the live league table very quickly, it won't change from what we showed you at the half-time break. It puts Throstles up to 22 points, the same as Villa, Rockets, Newcastle and West Bromwich Albion. Middlesbrough on 8, and whilst they currently have a 5-point buffer over the relegation zone and a 3-point buffer over that playoff position, they won't want to rely on others not performing. They'll want to get some points on the board in Game Week 4 to ensure that they're not present here on Saturday, June the 6th. Leeds currently with a commanding 6-0 scoreline over Muscle Warriors, so they are currently top of the table. Fascinating viewing no matter where you look. Thank you to all that have tuned in, to myself and David D for this fixture in Game Week 4 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Ryan.